Okay, we're going to be going through chapter 8. If you open up your slide, I have some links on the first two. Those are just some stories that happened over the last 6 months that I thought maybe you'd be interested in reading through that are related to our gender topic. So moving on down, chapter 8, race and ethnicity. Are they important in sports and the role that they play? One of the bigger things I need you to understand is the difference between race and ethnicity. So race is a population of people who are believed to be naturally or biologically distinct from other populations. So race really depends on a classification system through your physical traits, so what you look like on the outside. Ethnicity is a cultural heritage that people use to identify a particular population. So category people regarded as socially and distinct because of the shared way of life. Ethnic minority, these are, identified populations that suffer disadvantages due to discrimination and a strong sense of social togetherness because of the discrimination that they share. So the race classification system, one thing I want to highlight is something, and we're not going to get too historical on you here, but something that white people came up with years ago. This was their way to kind of distinguish and then allow themselves to put people in certain positions, such as slavery or the genocide, to get rid of people. Like, this was essentially a white European system that they developed. This wasn't a real well thought out thing. It was just a way to keep certain races within power and justify them treating other races poorly. Race ideology, it's the same terminology you've been seeing, but it's ideas and beliefs that are widely used to classify human beings into categories based on their biological attributes, okay? So because of what color your skin is, here is your intelligence, here's your temperament, and here are your physical abilities. That is race ideology. Race ideology has been used for white people to give themselves permission to act a certain way, and also to make other races inferior to them. There's racism, genocide, stereotypes. Stereotypes, is one. Racism is really attitudes and actions and policies of the belief that people of one race or category are superior to others. Stereotypes are going to be talking about how you're going to judge an entire group of people and classify it based on their race as well. The problem with race and race ideology is research shows that race is not a valid biological concept when we're talking about external traits, and that, again, I'm not going to get into a lot of sciences, but the book will talk more about the jumping gene and things like that. Using a critical theory questions about race classification systems, whose classifications are used, who created them, what are the consequences of using them. I mean, these are all things that you need to think about when we have categorized individuals. Why do we use them? Race in the United States is primitive but a powerful classification system. We're still a society, and I think that's some of the problems right now. We're still, race in the United States is unique because we just have, really for a long time, it was just two races, white or black. And now you're seeing our society changing, and where all the conflict is coming is that it's not that simple. You can't make it that simple. Race and race ideology within sports. So race ideology encourages people to see sports performance in regards to skin color, use whiteness as a taken for granted in certain sports, and explains the success or failure of people based on their skin color. You can't play this sport because you're white, or, you're not successful because of this. Like, it allows us to have these types of discussions. I just talked a little bit about the jumping gene. This research is misleading for a lot of different reasons, but I want you to read through that. As we continue to go through the slides here, I want you to get to slide 18, traditional race ideology used in sports. Achievement of white athletes. It's been typically based on their character, their culture, and their organization. Where black athletes, it's because their biologically or natural ability or their genetic heritage. So when someone's successful, we tend to say like, oh, it's because of the person that they were and their work ethic. Where With Black athletes, we've been more, they're biologically sound or whatever that might be. As we continue on down this, I want you to read through it, and I'm not going to go, slide to slide. That's why I make this PowerPoint. There are some things I want to highlight as we get down here. Race, I'm on slide 34. Race, ethnicity in sports, and, direct racism. So I want you to have an understanding of this. So direct racism, or, insulting fans. So fans are insulting players with slurs, okay? So they're coming right at you. Indirect would be chants or banners that are promoting political agendas. And racism on the field is, negative comments made by athletes or coaches or referees. If you scroll down here just a bit, I have a link to a Wartburg and Luther men's soccer YouTube video. This YouTube video was created several years ago. And both the Wartburg men's soccer team and the Luther men's soccer team, unfortunately, in the same season, dealt with incredibly racist situations that happened in games. And it was really a sad moment, even for me as a coach, to think that, we were in 2014 dealing with this kind of, behavior. And so they came together and made a fantastic video about just, putting a stop to this type of conversation. So stop my video, watch that video. It's very, very good. Okay, now that you're back up, you've watched it. It was something that I think both programs could be proud of, and it was their way to kind of combat what had happened to them. So I'm going to scroll down to eliminating race and ethnic exclusion in sports. What can we do to stop this? Certain sports have built-in incentives. So basically, some sports already are kind of eliminating it because, team owners, everybody benefits from everybody winning. Race ideologies and stereotypes are easy to suspend when the objective is performance data. So when you're just looking at who's getting it done, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color your skin is if we're just going off the data. All teams benefit if, everybody's winning, regardless. Team members are not required, though, to socialize together. So you might put them in the same environment, but that doesn't mean they're leaving the field and being together. And ethnic minority athletes always remain under control of white team owners, which, you would have seen in earlier slides. So if we scroll down here to the end, most organizations, I'm on slide 45 now, most organizations are white dominant, white identified, white centered. And, you're going to see throughout some of the articles that I sent you that this is still very prevalent. It is changing, but not at the rate that it needs to, or that we can just say everything's fine. There still needs to be more representation in the positions of power, that it's not just white dominant, white identified, white centered. So changes require, regular and direct confrontation to race and ethnic issues in people of positions of power. So it's similar to our gender conversation. You're going to hear me talk a lot about this in other chapters. It's our responsibility to start changing our language and not allowing people to talk a certain way, to say things, and putting a stop to it. And I know that can be difficult, especially when you're in your same peer groups and things like that. But it's important that we start changing our vocabulary and the things that we say. And that starts in all areas, not just gender, not just race. It's everything that we do. Training sessions for all of us to continue to learn. This year, I was an IS 101 professor, and we went to this wonderful speaker about race and things and being privileged. And it was even eye-opening to me. So continuing the conversation and continuing to being open about how our words, our actions can be perceived and how we can change those things. I do have some more articles here for you to click on. Let me get them up on my screen quickly. Just in regards to the national anthem, which has been a hot topic in football, the NFL. And if you haven't seen it, I'm not sure how you haven't, but basically, there's been a lot of discussion because it all started with a certain player was taking a knee during the national anthem. And what I want you to do is I want you to read this article from the New Yorker. kind of explaining some of the history behind it and why he did what he did, and understanding that this, you can take your viewpoint on it. And if we were in class together, we would have a lot of discussion about it, and I'm going to have you discuss it a little bit more in your forum. But, really understanding both sides of this topic. So it's not as easy as he was kneeling and being disrespectful, just as much as it's not as easy to say people aren't feeling disrespected. And understanding where people are coming from and having conversations. There is a bigger issue at hand here. This is about having conversations about individuals that aren't getting the same rights as others. And so I hope that some of the stuff that I share with you, regardless of how you stand on it, will start to open up that this is a conversation that we need to have. Whether you believe it should have been happening during an NFL national anthem, it is a conversation we need to have. And I would challenge you then to, when should we have this conversation? How should we have it? How should we get people's attention that there are individuals not being treated correctly? So just challenging your thought process with that. So go ahead and look at that. I also have another link here. It's going to pop up here in just a second. Actually, nope, just the one link. That's all I have for you. It has two links there, but it's just the one. So if you have any questions about this topic, please let me know. But I think as you get into it, a lot of things will come to light, and there'll definitely be some different things that you'll be thinking about.